Welcome, welcome everyone to Daf Yomi 1 week at a time. This is the last shiur of Masechet Menachot. It is our 15th class, and today we are going to be reviewing Daf 102 till 110, even though really for the cycle, we finished Daf, I think, actually on Friday. But for you, I went ahead 3 extra Daf so that we can finish today. And I'm not sure if they're doing it automatically, but if you have not yet registered for the next Masechet, please make sure to do that. And we'll talk more about that Masechet when we get there next week. Okay, Daf 102, we were talking about sacrifices that stay overnight. If they stay overnight, and you could have done zrika, you could have put the blood on the altar before it was nighttime, and you made and then you had improper thoughts. We don't view it as having been done already, meaning because you actually have to do an act, meaning zrika. The case in the Mishnah is that if something stayed overnight after doing zrika, which means that as soon as you do zrika, as soon as you put the blood on the altar, again, we're back to zvachim, but as soon as you put the blood on the altar, the animal becomes permitted to the Kohanim, and because of that moment, then it was called a sha'at hakosher, meaning it was kasher, it was valid for that moment. And so then the Gemara gives a different example. Let's say a person brings a sacrifice, a guilt offering. If you remember, the asham talui is where you bring this guilt offering, and then because you weren't sure if you did something wrong or not, and then you found out that you actually didn't do anything wrong and you didn't need to bring it. Now, if you found out before you did shchita, before you killed the animal, so then you can redeem the animal, or wait till it gets a blemish and redeem it. Or another opinion is that actually you still bring it as a sacrifice because you thought that you were going to you thought that it was going to be you needed to bring a sacrifice, but you weren't sure. Yes, Zohar, kosher is in the sense of permissible or available. Exactly. If you found out after you already shechted the animal, so then you spill the blood out, and if it was after you put on the blood, you already gave the sacrifice and they did everything that they needed to do, so then the meat can still be eaten by the Kohanim because all the processes up until that point were done with the proper intent. And if you have blood, so then you can even still put the blood on the altar and the meat can be eaten. Okay, maybe also, and then similarly, maybe also for burning it as well. Okay, the next Mishnah tells us, let's say, and I think basically, well, here, yes, and then in another few minutes, the rest of the Masechet is going to talk about. I mean, not yet. In another Okay. In another few pages, the rest of the Masechet is going to talk about people who make a vow to bring a certain type of sacrifice and then either don't remember, we don't know what they meant. So here the Mishnah says, let's say a person says, I'm going to bring the machvat sacrifice. And again, which is like in the frying pan. And instead, he brought the marcheshet, which is a different type, or vice versa. The sacrifice is valid, but you didn't fulfill your obligation because you brought the wrong one. If you say this flour is going to be machvat, and you bring it in the marcheshet, again, it's two different types of grain offerings. So then it's invalid because you said this flour was going to be X and you made it Y. So then that would not be valid. Let's say you said, I'm going to bring 2 esronot in one vessel, but you brought it in 2 vessels. So it's a valid sacrifice, but you didn't do your obligation. Let's say you said this flour is going to go into 1 vessel and you brought it into 2. That is invalid because you actually did the wrong thing with that flour. And now let's say they remind him of his vow, and then he remembers, oh yeah, I meant machvat, and
No, can't hear her.
Okay, I was just wondering, I guess everybody lost her, huh?
Yeah, can't hear
Yes.
or see.
She's trying to come back. Let's just wait on her.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. She's on, but it's not
but well, which one of you typed? Oh, Lynn did it. Okay.
I
Yeah.
typed it in there, and very soon after that, she removed herself. So I think she's trying to reboot, do whatever she
Okay.
can. I think she's aware of what's going on.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lynn, how do you pronounce your Hebrew name?
Ilanit.
Elanit. Okay.
Ilanit.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, hi.
Oh,
am
there
I
you are.
back?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
you're
you're back.
Okay, that was so weird. I was actually like plugged into my internet and now it's still not good. Okay. I heard you talking, so I appreciate you waiting for me. I see that my internet is back. Okay. I don't know where I lost you though. Um, Okay, I know. We'll start. We'll go to the top of DAF 103 tells us that if you first took a vow to bring a mincha, and then you found the flour, and then you said, I'm going to use this for a machvat, again, a certain pan, and you did the wrong pan, then it would be valid because when you originally the vow, you didn't specify what you wanted it to be. Then afterwards, when you specified, so that's great, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't invalidate the sacrifice. Okay, let's go to the next Mishnah on Daf 103. Let's say you said, I'm going to bring a mincha with barley. Really, when you get to the temple, you should really bring a mincha of wheat, because if you remember, the only ones that are barley are the omer, which is not something a private person brings, or for the sota, so that's also not something a person brings. So therefore, when you volunteered mincha of barley, you actually bring it of flour. Let's say you say, I'm going to bring it with regular flour. We say, no, you have to bring it with solet. Solet is a fine flour, right? A higher quality. So even though you said, I'm going to bring it with lower quality, I don't want to say we don't listen to you, but basically that's not the way to bring the mincha, and therefore you have to bring it in the proper way. Let's say you said, I'm going to bring it without oil, or I'm going to bring it without the livona, the frankincense. You have to bring it with those things, right? You can't bring half a korban. You have to bring what you're supposed to bring. Let's say again, you say, I'm going to bring half an isaron. Half an isaron is not the size. The size is 1 isaron. So you bring the proper thing. Let's say you say 1.5. So then you bring 2 because you meant 1 plus more. So the next thing after 1 is 2, not 1.5. So then you bring 2. Rabbi Shimon says that all of these things are not a vow, meaning they don't even count, right? The beginning of the Mishnah seems to imply there is a vow, just you have to do it in the right way. Rabbi Shimon says there isn't even a vow because you did it on the wrong way, therefore it doesn't count at all. Okay, so the Gemara says, really, you're contradicting yourself. And therefore, again, maybe you shouldn't bring anything. So that would be, again, according to Beit Shammai, you go according to the first thing that you said. So when you said, right, I'm going to bring a mincha, then whatever you said afterwards, right, of barley without oil doesn't count, because as soon as you said, I'm going to bring a mincha, done, that's your obligation. And we don't listen to, or it doesn't count when you messed it up afterwards. The Gemara says, no, it can even be according to Beit Hillel. As we know, we usually like things to go according to Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai is, we usually don't follow Beit Shammai's opinion for most things. So Beit Hillel would also agree, because you could say, the person could have said, oh, if I would have known that I can't bring with barley, obviously I would have said wheat, right? Meaning, oh, I didn't know that I have to bring oil. So obviously I'll bring it with oil. However, says the Gemara, if you say, I'm going to bring mincha out of lentils, now that is not a vow, because obviously that is not any type of mincha, and it doesn't count at all. Okay, right, and you have to say, I'm going to bring a mincha. If you don't use the word mincha, so then you didn't create this obligation. Another opinion is that we go according to the last statement. So if the last statement was, I'm going to bring a mincha without oil, so now you've just messed up your statement, and then it would not be a vow. So it's actually a machloket in Nedarim, right? If we go according to the beginning of the statement or the end, right? The idea is that if you go according to the beginning of the statement, it's what you actually intended from the beginning, right? Meaning that's what you wanted. And what you said at the end, you messed up. Another opinion is no, right? Meaning I maybe halfway through my statement, I actually realized, wait, actually, I want this. And I corrected myself, and therefore you would go according to the last statement. So again, that's a machloket if you go according to the beginning or the end of the vow. Okay, let's say the next Mishnah on Daf 103 says that a person can give a mincha up to 60 esronim. Again, an isaron is a measurement. We could think of it as like a cup. So you can give up to 60 esronim or esronot in one vessel, because the largest vessel that they had in the Beit HaMikdash held 60. You cannot give more. Therefore, if you vow to bring 61, so then 60 goes in one vessel, and one isaron goes in another vessel. Again, it could be because that is the largest amount of mincha that is given, or it's because you can't physically mix more than 60 in one klib, in one vessel, because it's not big enough. So the Gemara explains, we also can't mix different menachot together because each one has a different consistency, right? If something is denser, something is looser, right? Again, we're talking about like dough, so you can't mix it together if it has a different ratio of flour to oil. Okay. All right, another important concept here in Menachot is that you have to be able to mix the mincha properly. Therefore, you can't have more than 60 esronot in one vessel. However, right, that would seem to imply that I have to make sure that I mix it really well. However, the Gemara tells us that if I could have mixed it, if I don't mix it well, that is okay. Meaning I have to have the ability to mix it, but if I don't, if I have the ability to mix it, but I don't mix it properly or enough, it's still valid, which is an interesting concept. Okay. Next, Daf 104. The Mishnah tells us that, so since we're talking about donating different things to the Beit HaMikdash, so the Mishnah tells us that you cannot donate 1, 2, or 4 log of wine, right? A log again is a certain volume, so you can't give 1, 2, or 5, but you can do 3, 4, 6, and more. Why? Because these amounts, 3, 4, and 6, are standard amounts of wine, libations for different animal sacrifices. So again, the idea is that if you want to donate something, it needs to be within the standard amounts that are generally given to the Beit HaMikdash. You can't just decide, I want to give 4 3/4, cups of wine, right? You have to give what is normally given. And these are nisachim. Again, nisachim are libations, right? They are accompaniments to different animal sacrifices. So the Gemara asks, right? are nisachim fixed? Is it a fixed amount? And can they be divided, right? So let's say maybe if I donate 5, remember we said you can't do 1, 2, 5. But why don't I say, oh, I'll give 5 and 4 of them will be for, like, as if I gave a ram, and 1 will just be a donation. The Gemara says, or no, it doesn't work like that. And instead you wanted to give 5. Okay, add 1 and make it 6. That's one of the standard amounts. 3, 4, and 6. So the Gemara brings up the Mishnah in Shkalim, which we learned a long time ago, that there were certain, if you remember, there were these donation boxes in the Beit HaMikdash, and 6 of them are for donations for specific things, for money that was left over from sacrifices. But the Gemara says that there's no box for leftover from the nesachim, from the libations. And therefore, it must mean that there's no such thing as leftover, right? 5 is not 4 plus 1. Rather, you have to bring the specific amount of 3, 4, or 6. Right, the verse teaches that you can donate just wine, but again, it has to be at least 3 log or more, right? But it can't be less. You can give up until 10 because, again, you can do the math of up to, right? You could have a 6 and a 4, and that would be 2 different animals, right? But if he brings, let's say, 11, so then, right, 2 bulls would be 12, so, right, or 2 rams would be 8 plus a lamb, maybe that would be okay. So the Gemara says, Teku, we're not sure. Okay, the last Mishnah of this chapter, but don't worry, there's one more chapter. The Mishnah says you can donate wine, but not oil, or maybe you can also donate oil just like you donate the wine. But in general, we know that oil is not brought by itself. It's always brought with flour. Therefore, maybe you cannot donate just oil. And 2 people cannot donate 1 isaron, but they can donate an olah or a shlamim or a bird, meaning you can combine, but you can go into partnership for different animals, but not for a mincha. So the Gemara says you can donate a whole set of nesachim, of flour, oil, and wine. But again, when describing the mincha, the Gemara says nefesh, right? 1 person brings a mincha and not more than 1 person, right? The Gemara says, why are there 5 different types of menachot, of grain offerings, right? Because even though it's the most simple korban, it shows how much God gets pleasure from it, right? Meaning, even though it's simple, it's still meaningful to Hashem, which is very a beautiful idea. And that's the end of the 12th chapter. Now we have one more chapter to go. Hold on. Okay. The Mishnah, now, as I said, the rest is going to be about vows, taking a vow to bring a sacrifice. So let's say a person says, I will bring an isaron. I will bring isaron. So then that person brings 1. If you say esronot, right, plural, so then the minimum is 2. Let's say a person says, I vow to bring a specific number, but I don't remember what the number was. So then that person needs to bring 60 because 60 is the maximum that you could bring. Remember, 60 esronot of flour. again, let's say you said, I'm going to bring a mincha. You can bring any of the 5 types, but really the Gemara says maybe you should just bring solet, which is the most distinctive. If you say, I will bring a mincha or a type of mincha, you bring 1. If you say, I will bring menachot or a type of menachot, right? So then 2, because menachot is plural. I don't remember which type I said I was going to bring. You need to bring all 5. If you said, I specifically had a number and a type, but I don't remember what I said, so then you have to bring 60. Or another opinion is you need to bring 60 sacrifices of 1 isaron, 2 astronauts, 3 astronauts, 4 astronauts, etc., up to 60. Okay, because I don't remember which one. Yes, it's a crazy amount. So, okay, so the Gemara explains, right? If you say a specific number, but you don't specify how many vessels it's going to bring, so you're going to bring, so then you bring 1 isaron in a kli 60 times, because again, you didn't know how many you said. If you don't remember, we said bring solet, but again, with an animal, we don't say that you have to bring the most distinct. So we say, actually, you bring solet because it's the most common, right? Stam mincha, regular mincha, is solet. Daf 105, if you said min mincha, right, like a type of a mincha, it's 1. If you said minei mincha, types of a mincha, is it 1 or 2? Right, because again, you said minei, which is types, but mincha is singular, right? Maybe you needed to say minei menachot, then it's for sure 2, right? So again, min menachot, that's 2 of one kind. Therefore, maybe minei mincha is 1, or maybe it is 2. Okay, let's say now again, we're talking about things that we were in doubt about, right? So the question is, how can you bring something, how can you bring a mixed mincha? Meaning, right, let's say I don't know if I said 4, 40, 50, I don't know. So one opinion was you just do 60, because in 60 is a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, right? It's all in there. But one opinion is that is okay. Another opinion is, how is that okay? You now have like 60 korbanot in theory, or maybe 2 korbanot, right? They're mixed together. How is that okay? And why is that a problem? Maybe it's because of the oil, right? Because there are actually different opinions on how much oil you bring. One opinion is that you bring flour and oil. Again, you're mixing it together, and if it's in 2 separate vessels, and then they combine to fulfill an obligation, and the rest is going to be a donation, right? So again, if I have 1 vessel, and let's say I really originally I vowed to bring 30, but I don't remember. So now I bring 60 because that's the maximum. So in theory, in my bowl, I have half that is my obligation because of the vow, and half is going to be a donation, right? Meaning I'll give another 30 because I don't remember what I said. So now how does that work? So the Gemara says that, right, when you take the kmitza, right, I say this side is going to be my obligation, and then I do it again on the other side, and I say this side is going to be my donation. Now, I don't know what the ratio know is, but it's a stipulation that the Kohen can make. Okay, Daf 106 tells us that in these cases of doubt, we're always going to assume the most common thing. You don't have to assume um, you know, I guess exceptions or things that would normally not be said, right? So let's say I don't have to be concerned that maybe you vowed to bring a communal sacrifice, right? People do not bring communal sacrifices. So I don't have to assume you said that. I'm assuming that you wanted a normal amount of oil and of wine, and therefore, again, we're going to assume it's a certain up to a certain amount. Let's say a person. Remember, we said a specific number in one kli, what in one vessel. So one opinion was you bring 60 esronot in one vessel. Another opinion is you have to bring 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. If you wanted to know what 60 factorial is, right, it is 1,830 menachot. So please do not say any of these words. Okay, let's say you said, I don't remember what type. So now it's going to be 5 times 60, right? Again, we said the maximum is 60, 5 times 60, that's 300 menachot. But let's say, again, according to the opinion that you have to bring 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So let's say now, I don't remember what type it was. Also, you multiply the 1,800, whatever it was, times 5, and now you get 9,150 menachot. So again, please do not, right? Please do not make vows. That's number one. And if you're going to make a vow, write it down somewhere so that you remember what you need to bring. Again, the Gemara now says, remember we said, okay, you take 2 kmitzot, right? You take one from one side, one from the other. Then the Gemara says, but wait a minute, how am I going to burn it? Do I burn the obligation first? Do I burn the voluntary one first? So the Gemara basically says that you burn the obligation one first, and then the second one you actually burn as fuel, because maybe it was an obligation, maybe it was a donation, and therefore that is what you do. As I mentioned, there's also a machloket about the amount of oil, right? We know that it's 1 log per mincha. Now, the implication is 1 isaron of flour gets 1 log of oil, but it could be that therefore it's 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 60 esronot, so then it's 60 log of oil. Another opinion is no, each mincha, or right, every mincha, doesn't matter how much flour, gets 1 log of oil, right? And therefore you can't say, remember we said, let's say it's 30 and 30, so then I would need, again, according to the second opinion, I would need 2 log of oil. I don't know how much is in this kli, in this utensil, and therefore, as we said, it's problematic because I don't know how much, how many menachot I actually have in this vessel. Okay. The next Mishnah, again, let's say somebody, all right, so we had vows, we had that we forgot what we said. Now we're going to go back to what we'll call unspecified vows, right? Let's say I said I'm going to bring X, but I wasn't specific. What do we think I meant when I said that? Okay. If someone says I'm going to bring wood to the temple, excuse me, you have to bring at least 2 logs of wood. livona, right, the frankincense, you have to bring at least, excuse me, at least a kometz of livona. And let's say I'll bring gold. You have to bring at least a dinar of gold. It's a gold coin. Sorry, the water went down the wrong way. If you say you're going to bring silver, you have to bring a silver dinar. If you say copper, you have to bring one silver me'ah, like another amount, a certain coin. If you don't remember how much, let's say you said, I said a certain amount, but I don't remember how much. So they keep adding till you say, whoa, whoa, for sure, I didn't mean that much, right? And once you stop there, that's when you stop. So now the Gemara explains there's actually a machloket, is if you donate wood, is that wood just fuel? Or is it or is it an actual sacrifice, right? Again, we can donate things. So is it seen as a korban, as a sacrifice, or just as fuel? And we say that the livona is compared to the kometz of the mincha, right? Because when it says that you take the kometz of the mincha, it says now add all of the livona. If that's the case, so then if it's a kometz of flour, it must be that the livona is also a kometz amount, that volume. If you say, I want something for the altar, so then we assume you meant the livona, because the livona is the only thing that is completely burnt on the mizbeach. You might say, wait a minute, what about the olah? We know that the burnt offering is completely burnt on the altar, on the mizbeach. The Gemara says, yes, but the hide of the animal goes to the kohen. Therefore, the livona, actually, right, you donate a kometz, the whole kometz is placed on the mizbeach. Okay, daf 107. If you said gold, we assume you meant coin and not a nugget. The Gemara says, no, actually, you have to say a gold coin. And then obviously it is that coin. Okay, and if you donate, we said silver is also like a coin, copper has to be a coin, or maybe a small copper fork that's used to clean out the lamp, the menorah. If you donated iron, it has to be big enough to be like a spike, which was, if you've seen on the pictures, the Beit HaMikdash actually had some like metal spikes on the roof to make sure that the birds didn't land on the roof. And therefore that is the amount of iron, like one of those spikes, amount of iron. Okay, Daf, the next Mishnah on 107. Let's say you say, I will bring wine. So then it's 3 log. That's the minimum gift. If you say oil, it's 1 log or maybe 3. If you said, I specified, but I don't remember. So you bring the most that could be given in 1 day in the Beit HaMikdash. As we said, the verse teaches that you can donate wine. The minimum is 3 or more, but you cannot do less. And then the Gemara says, right, do we learn oil from the mincha, and therefore it's 1 log, or no, it can actually be 3 log. And the Gemara discusses that. What is the day that you bring the most menachot? That is on Sukkot, that falls out on Shabbat. You actually bring 61 esronot for the mincha, and it's actually 140 log of oil. So that is actually a lot. Let's say Okay, let's say that now, okay, the next Mishnah says, if I bring, so that's moving to animals, I'll bring an olah, so then you can bring a lamb or a bird. If you say, I don't remember which of the herd I donated, again, your options are a bull, right, a par, or a calf, right, like the baby, right? Did you mean the adult or the baby? If you say I don't remember which animal, so then you actually have to bring a ram, a goat, a kid, and then a young lamb. But basically, like the adult. Let's take a step back for a minute. The animals that are given are a bull, right? A cow, right? Again, male, a bull, a sheep, or a goat. And for all of them, they could be adults or kids, right? Or young, right? Meaning under a year or above. So when you don't remember, you'll have to give one of each, right? An adult and a young of each one of these three categories. Again, when we say animal, it excludes birds, in case it's not clear, even though birds are animals. But here we're talking about, like the flock. If you don't remember what I vowed, so you have to bring all of the things that we just said, plus birds, because that's also a korban. Let's say that now an olah is only male, so that's why we were okay. You only gave the male version of all of those animals. Now let's say you said I'm going to bring a todah or a shlamim. So now this could be male or female. So now you have to bring right again a bull and a cow and a calf, that's male or female. Male, you know what I'm saying? So you have to bring 4 now. If you say any animal, again, all the animals we mentioned, male, female, adult, male, female, young, right? So that's that. If you say I'm going to bring a bull, you have to bring the nisachim, and the nisachim value 100 dinar. For a calf, it's 20 dinar. For a ram, it's 2 selah, which is 8 dinar, and for a lamb, it's 1 selah, which is 4 dinar. You said I'm going to bring a bull that's worth a maneh. So that means that the animal needs to be worth that amount. And then you have to bring the nisachim. You cannot bring 2 bulls worth that amount because you said you're going to bring 1 bull that amount. If you said black, you can't bring white. If you said big, you can't bring small. And then there's a machloket. If you said small, can you bring big or not? But again, small in terms of a smaller animal versus a larger animal. Again, one opinion is you have to do what you said. Another opinion is, wait, it's bigger, so shouldn't bigger be better? So that is a machloket. Okay, so now the Gemara explains. Again, let's say you said an olah worth a selah, so then you bring a sheep. That's the cheapest one. If you say, I don't remember what I vowed, but I remember it was worth a selah, so you bring anything that you can get for that, for the selah. And again, as we said, from the herd, you bring an adult and the child, right? The kid, the young offspring. It shows that if you vowed to bring a small, you can't bring a big one, right? Otherwise, again, let's say you vowed to bring the calf, and you decide to bring a bull. Shouldn't that be even better? It's so much bigger. So the Gemara says no, meaning if you vow to bring something small, that's what you need to bring. You can't bring something bigger. Okay. Now back to remember we were talking about the collection boxes. So there were boxes, and we said that there were 6 for donations. So the question is, why do we need 6? And there are a lot of different opinions. One second, I need to breathe. Okay. There are a lot of different opinions why they needed 6 donation boxes. One is maybe for each day of the week, meaning the Kohanim that were on call that day took from, right, they would get the hides of animals used that were brought from this money. Another opinion is there was so much money, so they needed more boxes so that they wouldn't like corrode, right? Because metal corrodes if it's piled on top of each other. So they needed to spread it out. Maybe it's one for each type of animal that could be donated. So remember again, there's 3 types of animals and the adult version and the young version. So that's 6. Or maybe it's 4 animals plus extra money. That another DAF 108 tells us that maybe it's for surplus of different sacrifices, not different types of animals, but different sacrifices. Sorry. And that is another explanation of what they were used for. Okay, next Mishnah. If you say this ox will be an olah and it gets a blemish, so then you sell it, and the money that you need from it, you bring another sacrifice. You can even buy 2 animals with it, as long as they are sacrifices. Or maybe if it was 2 animals, you can actually buy 1, or you can't. Whatever it was, that's what you have to buy when you redeem that animal. If you had a ram, right, this ram is going to be an olah and it got a blemish, so you can use them again, you sell it, you can use the money to buy a lamb, or vice versa, right? Again, adult and child. The Gemara says you cannot commit to a large animal and buy a smaller animal, even though you said that this animal, right, was going to be the sacrifice, it still is sanctified. Rebbe disagrees with all of these cases. He actually says that you can even buy a different species, right? If you had a bull, you can buy 2 rams. Okay, next Mishnah. One of my lambs is going to be sanctified. If you have 2, so then the larger one has to go to the Beit HaMikdash. If you have 3, so then the middle one goes to the Beit HaMikdash. Again, the question is, what's the psychology behind these donations, right? So the Gemara says, right, makdish be'ayin yafa, right? Meaning when you sanctify something, you do it with a good eye, meaning generously. If you are going to, right, if I have a big lamb and a small lamb, obviously I was going to give the big lamb to the Beit HaMikdash because I want to be generous. But you maybe also meant the middle one, right? And therefore the middle one, the Gemara actually says, is also sanctified, not only sanctified, but also. Same thing with the ox, right? An ox of my oxen, you have to bring the larger one. Or no, the Gemara says you always have to bring the best. Daf 109. Okay. The Mishnah is going to mention the temple of Chonio. Okay, this is called Mikdash Chonio. Chonio is the name of a person. And he, actually, we're going to see his story in a minute, but he built a temple in Egypt, and it looked like the Beit HaMikdash, and he had Kohanim. There is a machloket if it was like a Beit Mikdash 2.0, and the people who sacrificed there meant to sacrifice to God, but they were just far away? Or was it actually for idolatry? So that's the machloket. And you'll see why we have this machloket in a minute. Okay, so the Mishnah says, if you say, I'm going to bring an olah, it must go to the temple in Jerusalem. It cannot go to Beit Chonio, right? It cannot go to the temple in Egypt. I'll bring an olah to Beit Chonio. So really, it should still go to the Beit HaMikdash because we're not supposed to bring sacrifices to Beit Chonio. But if you do bring it there, you did fulfill your obligation. Or no, it's not an olah because you're not supposed to be bringing sacrifices there and it doesn't count at all. If you say, I am a Nazir, you have to bring all of your sacrifices to Jerusalem. If you say, I'm going to do it in Beit Chonio, and you do it, so then it is valid, or again, maybe not. So now the Gemara says, right, you have no obligation to fulfill this vow to Beit Chonio because it's not a vow. It's not what you're supposed to do. But another opinion is, no, maybe you really just wanted to give a gift to God. And maybe you live in Egypt or near Egypt, and it's easier to go to Egypt than to Jerusalem. And in that case, it would be okay to do it. Okay, so now I think it's the last Mishnah. No, second to last Mishnah tells us that Kohanim who worked in Beit Chonio are not allowed to go and work in Jerusalem, right? This seems to be implying it's bad news over there. Don't go there. And obviously, if they work for idolatry, for sure they can't go to the Beit HaMikdash. This seems to imply that Beit Chonio is not idolatry. But again, in the wrong place. Kohanim who worked in the bamot, in these external altars that were outside of Jerusalem, they could not work in Jerusalem, but they could eat the meat from the Beit HaMikdash of Jerusalem. So now the Gemara explains, Kohanim who did shchita for idolatry, if then they decide to bring a korban to God, it's accepted. Because shchita, if you remember, and this is like a good overview for the past two Masechtot, if you remember, shchita, slaughtering the animal, is a preliminary step and is not seen as a sanctified step, right? Everything else after that is only done by Kohanim. Therefore, if you do shchita for idolatry, you haven't completely invalidated yourself as a Kohen. But if you do any other service beyond that, then your sacrifice is not going to be accepted in the Beit HaMikdash. If the Kohen did zrika by accident to an idol, he didn't realize an idol was there, it's a machloket if his sacrifice is going to be accepted, right? If he does tshuva, if he does repentance, it is accepted. And again, as I said, the Mishnah proves that Beit Chonio was not a place of idolatry. And now the Gemara explains what this is. Basically, when Shimon HaTzadik, who was a Kohen Gadol, when he died, and the Gemara explains how he knew when he was about to die, so he basically names Chonio, his son, to be the next Kohen Gadol. However, Chonio had an older brother, and that brother got jealous because he wanted to be the Kohen Gadol, so he plotted to have Chonio killed, and therefore Chonio runs to Egypt and makes his own temple in Egypt. And opinion number one is that it was for idolatry, and therefore it's really bad. Or opinion number two, no, Chonio didn't want to be the Kohen Gadol, and actually he set up his brother, but then he ran away and he set up this temple for God, right? So again, you see that that there's a machloket about this. And from here, you see that you really shouldn't jump to accept a position of power, but right, you should like run away, like Shaul runs away from from being king. But when you already have the power, it's very hard to get rid or step down from the power, right? And that's Shaul, right? At the end, he actually was chasing David because he thought David wanted to take over. Okay, so the Gemara says, daf 110, our last daf of the Masechet, that everyone around Israel knows who Israel is and who God is, but further away from Israel, actually, they might not know who God is. From here, the Gemara talks about the importance of learning Torah, at night. So, kol hakavod to those of you who are in Israel. The importance of learning about the avodah. If you learn about, and this is a beautiful way to finish the Masechet, right? If you learn about the sacrifices, it's as if you built the Beit HaMikdash. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we should have that merit. And if you learn Torah, right, it's as if you actually brought those sacrifices, right? Which is why there are people who say korbanot in the morning as part of their morning prayers. The korbanot are reading the psukim, the verses of each korban, because the idea is it's as if you are bringing the actual korban. Okay. And the Gemara says that the last Mishnah says that again, with the Olah, it's a reach nichoach, it's this beautiful smell for God. And so too the birds, and so too with the mincha, right? All of these sacrifices are like reach nichoach. They're a pleasant, they're a pleasant smell. And the Gemara says, the Mishnah says that whether you do a lot, right? You give a big animal or a small animal, a lot of korbanot or a few korbanot. It's all pleasing to God, as long as you have the right kavanah, right? The right intention, right? And the Gemara says that you always, when the verses that describe the korbanot, always use the name of God, right? Shem Hashem, because you should recognize that it's all for the same God, right? There aren't like different gods. It's all going to the same God. And you should just understand that God does not need to eat. It's not like you're feeding God, right? This is just to give him pleasure. And the Masechet ends by telling us that if you look at the verses, it says, Lirtzonechem, the korbanot need to be by your will, meaning the idea is you need to be aware when you're giving these sacrifices. You need to have proper intent and mindfulness when you are giving the sacrifices. And with that, we finish Masechet Menachot. Some say that this was all one Masechet. So not only did we finish Menachot, but we also finished Zvachim. And that was actually incredible. So kol hakavod to everyone. For this incredible feat of finishing this really, I would say, challenging and very large Masechet, though I do have to say that the next Masechet is even longer. But we will deal with that next week. This week, we are just going to enjoy the fact that we finished this Masechet. I'd love to hear, we have like 1 minute left, but if you want to, yes. questions and comments. I do just want to say, I happen to love these Masechtot, and exactly for the reason that we just said, right? This idea that because we can't actually see what these things are, it's so important to learn them, to experience them in a way that we can experience them, right? For hundreds of years, people did not learn these Masechtot because they said, why do I have to learn it? There is no temple. But I think personally, it's the opposite. Because there is no temple, right? We need to learn these Masechtot. So really kol hakavod to everyone for learning all of this. And yes, questions, go.
You said 60 esronim. What is the shiur? What is the measurement of to bring challah? To take
No,
to
much
take
less. Much
much
less.
less. Okay.
Much
So
less.
I was wondering if that had any correlation.
Yeah, meaning like again, an isaron is like around a cup, I think a little bit bigger, and we know that it's like 12 to 16 cups of flour is to take challah. Right here, we don't have that because again, it's going to the challah goes to the kohanim. This is going to the kohanim, to Hashem. So we don't have the issue of challah here. Yes,
Who?
yes, Aliza, go.
All right, so let's say you're just a person and you have vowed 30 to the 30 sacrifices
Menachot.
to the Lebanim, but you go home, you make dinner, next day you have forgotten. Now you're obligated to bring 60 times 8 is 480. You break the bank. I think that's going against Jewish law because you're never supposed to give more than you can afford.
Right. So again, it's not that you vow 30 and now you forgot and then like you get like a and then you it's not like a penalty. The point is you have no idea how much you could have vowed. And therefore, I think that for most of the things that we did today, I think it's a way to scare people. I don't want to be that, but to impress upon people the importance of the power of speech. And if you're going to take a vow, make sure that you remember or don't specify, right? Again, you're right. It's not meant to break the bank or make you be poor. Again, we could say that if you now have to bring 60, okay, so bring one today and one tomorrow
Oh,
and
so
one
they're
next
not
month and
held
one.
to it up front. They make it work.
Again, there is a time frame, but I would say most people will say it's about a year. So
Okay, okay.
you do have some time.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah.
Again, well
Ilanit.
done, Rabbanit. I mean, wow, what you got us through today. So yes, I noticed DAF 107, and that was amazing. I just had to exclaim when I saw them saying, "Be careful," right? And you're right. It's all about being specific because it matters. It's absolutely heard and recorded above, and you're held accountable. And then you forget. That's it. If you just said animals. So I was supposed to bring an animal. I don't remember what kind. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And they're just like, well, there's a bull and a ram and a sheep. It just goes on and on. So yes, got to be very specific. And my question was about what do they really mean in the context of these pages concerning the term donation? I often think about I'm going to donate to the temple. So that means I'll just give to the general fund and they'll use it how they want. But here they're talking about specific items that would actually be part of specific menus for korbanot. And so in bringing that, what is the understanding? Am I donating so that somebody who's poor wants to bring, but they don't have, and I donated ahead? Is that what's going on?
Okay, great question. Okay, there are two forms of donations to the Beit HaMikdash. What's called, you can donate something as a sacrifice, meaning I sorry, one second. Right, you can say, I don't know, something amazing happened to me today. Wow, Hashem, you're amazing. I want to bring a sacrifice to the Beit HaMikdash, right? It's not for somebody, it's not charity in the sense that it's going to somebody else. I want to show my love to God, so I can show my love in different ways. One is to donate a sacrifice. If it's donating a sacrifice, again, that's all the things we just mentioned: animal, bird, grain, flour, oil, wine, right? It could be something specific, and basically, right, you take that animal and you put it on the mizbeach, right? I am giving it to God. Another way that you can say is like, wow, again, like maybe I did well on some investment, so I have like extra money, and I want to give a donation to the temple. That's called bedek habayit. Bedek habayit means the temple upkeep. So, right, I remember we said like I want to sanctify my cup to God. Obviously, the cup is not going to God, but you can sell my cup, and now the money can go to, washing the floors in the Beit HaMikdash, making the, certain vessels, or whatever. That would be what we would call temple funds, temple upkeep funds. So those are the two different things. And if you remember, we did machatzita shekel, the half a shekel, that went to communal offerings. So again, that was, it's a donation, but it's a obligatory donation. So again, those are different things that are given and in different ways. So if that helps.
So that's great. A related question, just obviously, sometimes, you're obligated in things, and you have to pony up. It's like you're obligated, you've got to do it for whatever reason. And calculation is done from Hashem, saying even if you're too poor, you could bring something less. But it's all limited. But for someone who is obligated and can't bring, like the classic case would be a Metzora wants to complete and they can't afford this kind of thing. Was it ever happening that somebody else could pay it, or is that just not allowed because it's on them to pay?
You could have that. We actually saw that. If you remember, I want to say Nadarim, but I don't remember exactly. We had it in Nazir also. Someone could say, I want to sponsor your Nazir animals, your Mitzorah animals. Again, you have to bring it, but you don't, if someone else is volunteering to pay for it, you could do that. You could do that. Yes. Again, I'm not sure about maybe like a chatat or an asham where it really is your, sin that you need to atone for. But again, with those korbanot, it's a sliding scale. So if you can't afford it, you bring the grain offering, right? Most people can afford a cup of flour, so
the donations we were talking about in these pages were not for that purpose.
Exactly. Exactly.
I remember that there was an option for bring a bird instead of a bull, whatever.
Meaning the levels are animals, birds, grain, right? So meaning the grain is the poor man's sacrifice. So because of that, there's a sliding scale because not everybody can afford everything.
Did God write it down when you made an offer when you were 30 for $500 and you've never paid it? Now the synagogue is gone. I still remember that. I'm serious. Is God holding me?
Again, it depends. That goes with vows. If
I can do it now. Just don't know what to
give
do
500 to this shul, and that shul is not there anymore, you don't have to give it. If you said I'm going to give 500 to charity, so then it has to go.
No, I gave it to the synagogue.
Wow.
Well, so I don't have to. I can if I want. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. That's the beauty of the specificity, right? The beauty of it. So if I said I'm going to give it to Rabbanit, and then she's not here anymore,
There goes.
Excellent. All right. Well,
All
thank you,
right.
Thank you.
everyone. And
Adana lach.
Bezrat Hashem, really, I hope everyone is having a big party over the weekend, celebrating this huge accomplishment, huge. And Bezrat Hashem, we will start next week.
Why don't you
with
give it a name so we can remember it? To
what?
start what? What's the
Oh,
next one?
Chulin, Masechet
Okay, you
Chulin.
got it right, Lynn.
Masechet
Okay.
Chulin is about animals and less about the Beit HaMikdash, more about what makes an animal kosher, how do you slaughter an animal, what you can eat, what you can't eat, forbidden foods, things like that.
Okay.
If you are a vegetarian, it is not the Masechet for you. There's a lot of animal anatomy. So hopefully we'll find pictures and it's going to be great.
Okay. Thank you, Ru.
Okay. Have a great day and Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom.
And Lag
Shabbat
BaOmer
Shalom,
Sameach.
Shabbat Shalom.
And
Yeah, keep the
Lag BaOmer
count.
Sameach.
Keep the count.